Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Lauren McGowan, and I'm the Director of Recruitment and Admissions for the UB School of Social Work. Today, we are talking about the application process. So, in addition to going over the components of the application and logistics, I'm hoping to impart a bit of advice on how to submit a strong application to the MSW program. So, let's get started. First, I want to go over the basic prerequisites for our programs. So in order to apply to any of our MSW program tracks, you must have a bachelor's degree by the time that you would start in the master's program. And we do admit students from all undergraduate majors, so your undergraduate degree can be in any subject. As a part of your undergraduate coursework, we also look for at least 24 credits of liberal arts. So these classes come from specific categories. 6 credits must be social and behavioral science, so any psychology, sociology, or anthropology type course. 6 other credits must be arts and humanities, which can include things like English, literature, foreign language, visual and performing arts, and history. And the final 12 credits can be from any of the categories I just mentioned, plus natural science and math. So most students who have completed a general education curriculum or who have a liberal arts degree do meet these requirements. But if you would like us to double check for you, if you're unsure, feel free to email us a copy of your transcripts and we can take a look and make sure that you meet all of these liberal arts requirements. Next, while we do recommend a 3.0 GPA or higher to apply, it is not required for our traditional MSW programs. So that being said, the lower your undergraduate GPA is, the stronger case you're going to want to make for yourself through the other application documents, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, since admission is still competitive. And we also require an undergraduate level 3-credit human biology or anatomy and physiology class. So if you haven't taken this yet, don't worry. You don't actually have to take it before you apply. You can actually complete it either over the summer or during your first semester in the MSW program if you're admitted. So, in addition to all of these requirements, in order to apply to our 35 credit advanced standing MSW program tracks, students must also have the following. So, our advanced standing program is for students that have a bachelor's degree in social work, otherwise known as a BSW degree, from a CSWE accredited program conferred within 6 years of starting the MSW program here, as well as a a minimum BSW GPA of 3.0 or higher, and a B- or better in all of their social work major classes, which are the classes that have your school's social work prefix on them. So this advanced standing criteria is extremely strict. So if you do not have a bachelor's degree in social work, then you must apply for the traditional 60 credit program, no exceptions. I always tell students, don't feel bad if you don't meet the advanced standing criteria. It is very, very specific. The majority of our students are in our traditional program tracks because the advanced standing is really just for students that meet all of these specific requirements. So now let's talk about what you'll actually need to submit for the application process. So the application process is completely electronic. And so in addition to the application form, you're going to need to submit contact information for 3 academic or professional references, copies of all of your academic transcripts, a personal statement essay, and an application fee. You will note that we do not require GRE scores or any other standardized test scores for our MSW program application. However, if you are applying to one of our dual degree programs, then you will need to complete a second separate application for that other department, and they may or may not require standardized test scores. So just make sure you know what the requirements are if you're applying to one of the dual degree programs for the other department. And there are some additional application requirements for international students. They must also submit official English proficiency scores for any student that's from outside Canada and the UK, and then some additional financial documentation showing that they can cover the first year of tuition fees and expenses. And there is more information about this on our website if you are an international student and this applies to you. So next we're going to look at the application components in a little bit more detail, and I'm going to try to give you some tips on submitting a strong application to the program. So first let's talk about recommendations. So you must send the recommendation requests to your three recommenders before you actually submit the application form. So these three people should be individuals that you know either academically or professionally, and they should be people who have directly observed your work. So we're really not looking for personal or character references. So if all they can say about you is that you're a nice person, then you should really choose someone else. And once you submit the request, they are going to receive an email with a link to upload their electronic letter of recommendation and to complete a brief evaluation form. Uh, so you should note that the recommendations must be completed by the recommenders directly. So you cannot upload a letter on their behalf. So you may want to choose people that are technologically savvy enough to be able to upload that letter electronically. Next, let's talk a little bit about transcripts. So you can actually upload copies of your transcripts either before or after you submit the application form. And we do need one transcript from each school that you earned college level credits from after high school. So the transcript does have to be from the original school you earned the credits from. So even if you have ECC credits, for example, that show up on your Buffalo State College transcript, we would need a transcript from Buffalo State and one from ECC. So hopefully that is clear and makes sense. These transcripts can be unofficial copies for the application. However, we're not looking for advising reports or web printouts. So basically, this means that your transcript copies should look like actual transcripts that you scanned in and not a web page or a web printout. If you would prefer to send official copies to our office, that is totally fine too, although it usually does take a little bit longer for official copies to get here. So just make sure that you are requesting them well in advance of the deadline. And our mailing address here at the School of Social Work is different than the undergraduate admissions office address. So just make sure that you're sending them to the correct location. Our mailing address is on our website as far as where to send those official transcripts. And then finally, you will need to pay an application fee, which you're going to do only after you submit the application form. There is a link in your portal that you're going to use to pay via credit card, and the current amount is $100 for the online and dual degree programs and $75 for the on-campus MSW programs. Now let's talk a little bit about what is arguably the most important component of your application, which is your personal statement. So you can only upload the personal statement after you submit your application form. So you're not going to see the place to upload it until you actually submit the application and get redirected to your portal. So just be aware of that. You have to submit the form first before you can upload your statement. While we don't enforce a minimum or maximum length for the personal statement, there are specific guidelines you have to follow, and 5 to 6 pages double spaced is kind of the average length that most statements are. We are looking for a full essay format, so not a question and answer, although when you look at the web page, it does have the list of bulleted questions that you must address. So our guidelines are quite specific in that way, but we're really looking for something that's well written and organized as an essay. So what are we really looking for here in a strong personal statement? So when it comes to the actual essay itself, we're looking for a lot of different things. So first and foremost, this is a writing sample. So we're looking for strong technical writing skills. We are also making sure that your essay is well organized and it answers all of the questions that we asked in the guidelines. So basically, did you follow directions and answer all of the questions? And then when it comes to the actual content of the essay and the answers to the questions, we're really looking for responses that show critical thinking and self reflection, and that really go beyond surface level platitudes. So I always give the example that wanting to help people is really great, but it's just not specific enough for this essay. We also want you to demonstrate that you really understand what social work is as a profession and that you've really done your research on it and can explain why you want to pursue social work as opposed to any other helping profession that may be out there. And finally, your personal statement is really your chance to explain any low grades or other things that you think might be of concern to the admissions committee. So, if that applies to you, if you have a lower GPA, let's say from your undergraduate degree, make sure you own it and reflect upon it in a constructive way and tell us how and why things are different now, and what you're going to do to be successful in the future. Your personal statement is really your chance to let us get to know you beyond just the numbers of your transcript. So make sure that you really are taking your time on it. It is a very heavily weighted component of the application, and sometimes it can be the make or break factor for whether a student is admitted or not. So make sure you're really editing it and taking it seriously and taking your time on it. Finally, let's talk a little bit about timing. So first, you're going to want to make sure that you look at the chart on our website to figure out what the application deadline is for your program. The deadlines are different depending on which program you're applying to, whether you're applying to a traditional program versus an advanced standing program, part-time, full-time, online. They all have different deadlines. So just make sure that you're certain about when your application is due so you can plan accordingly. All documents for the application must be submitted by the application deadline, not just the application form. So, because of this, once you find out what the deadline is for your program, you really want to begin the application process as soon as you're able to. You don't have to complete it in one sitting, so you can always start it and then save it and go back and complete it over time as you have the rest of your documents completed. And you should be sending the recommendation request to your recommenders at least 1 month, if not sooner, before the deadline, but preferably as soon as possible. So I can say that when students miss out because their application is incomplete, probably 4 out of 5 times, it's because we are missing a recommendation letter. So you really want to give yourself time to remind people or to deal with any issues that might come up with recommenders and recommendations, just because that's usually a big factor that could go wrong or something that you're relying on other people to do for you. So you want to give them as much time as possible to complete those for you. And next, you should really be submitting your application form, all of your additional materials, and paying the application fee at least a few weeks before the deadline. Although there is an incentive to do it sooner, because for most programs, the sooner you complete your application, the sooner you get a decision on whether or not you're admitted. The one program exception to this would be our traditional online part-time MSW program, since that one is especially competitive. So those students aren't typically notified about admission until after their deadline passes and all of the applications have been reviewed. But for all of the other students, for all of our on-campus programs, we usually give decisions out as soon as applications are completed and reviewed. So that's an incentive to get it in before the deadline, as soon as you can. So hopefully this helped clarify the application process a little bit for you, but certainly if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out and I'm happy to chat with you further. Thanks and have a great day.